On the 6th of May 2023, King Charles III and Camilla, the Queen Consort, had a lavish coronation where they were crowned as British monarchs in Westminster Abbey. At the time, Charles and Camilla were the first King and Queen Consort to be crowned in 86 years, with the last King and Queen Consort to be crowned in the Abbey were Charles's grandfather, King George VI, and his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, who would later become the Queen Mother. The coronation was a grand affair, though some had few words to share, including the question of whether should Britain have a monarchy at all. Despite this, the history of British royal coronations has been a centre part of British history. Despite this, the history of British royal coronations has been a centre part of British history, and over time the ceremonies evolved to create the traditions we know today. Today, in Journey Through the Ages, we are going to take a look into the history of British coronations and the origins behind some of the lavish, mind-blowing and crazy traditions. How is a historical ceremony planned between a sovereign's accession to the throne and the event, and what's used in the ceremony? Coronations have been a ceremonial occasion involving crowning a new sovereign where he or she makes an oath to govern the people of a country and or Commonwealth countries according to respective laws and customs of the law and ancient usage of the realm. Coronations have been a European tradition dating back thousands of years, but the United Kingdom is the only European monarchy to retain a ceremony. Coronations in the United Kingdom involve the clergy, politicians and subjects asking the sovereign if he or she promises to protect the country, the church and the people. This is a law required in the Coronation Oath Act of 1688. But why is Westminster Abbey has been the main centre of royal coronations? It all had something to do with William the Conqueror, who chose to have his coronation there, claiming to be the lawful successor of Edward the Confessor. And because Edward's buried at the high altar, it was thought that crowning a new sovereign proves that the sovereign was the rightful ruler of the British throne. It takes months, sometimes years, to prepare for a royal coronation following the death of a previous monarch, and it requires an amount of preparation leading up to the ceremony. In the amount of research that has been written in the making of this video, we are going to see what a sovereign's coronation may be like. How is a royal coronation prepared? A royal coronation is planned months before the accession of a sovereign, but the arrangements are different. Some are arranged last minute, others change, and others are planned for years before a new monarch ascends to the throne. By tradition, the Duke of Norfolk is in charge of organising the coronation, and with him as an Earl Marshal, a member of the Norfolk Herald of Arms Extraordinary, and an officer of arms in England. As a member of an officer at arms, the Duke of Norfolk arranges a committee of privy councillors who will arrange the coronation ceremony. This goes back as far as medieval times, where appointed a sovereign or state was the chosen man who would have the task of arranging and participating in ceremonies of state. They may have to appoint pursuivants or heralds to establish a noble household. However, an officer of arms or herald, as was the original title, dates far back to the Battle of Agincourt, where heralds had a different role. bringing messages to a monarch. When witnessed by the English and French heralds, both agreed that the English won the day. When the battle was over, the French herald provided Henry V, allowing him the right to name the battle and the nearby castle. In 1484, a royal cooperation for the heralds was founded by Richard III. This would become known as the College of Arms. Not long before, Richard had appointed Sir John Howard, who would become the first Duke of Norfolk and Earl Marshal of England, making him the first member of the Howard family to gain both positions. While there are different ranks for the College of Arms, the highest rank is the Herald of the Extraordinary. It's bestowed upon a senior household in recognition for his service to the College of Arms. However, these are temporary appointments for the Herald of Ordinary appointed by a sovereign for their coronation. Another person who's involved is the Archbishop of Canterbury. Since 1066, all who have been appointed Archbishop of Canterbury conducts the service. Although coronations are occasions for pageantry and celebration, people have to be mindful since a coronation service is a solemn religious ceremony. It is a ceremony involving not beginning of a reign, but an occasion where a monarch takes a solemn oath to govern the people of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms. However, there have been occasions when different archbishops have crowned queen consorts. An example of this was Edward VII's coronation in 1902, when the Archbishop of York crowned Alexandra of Denmark. The last people who are involved in the coronation ceremony are the Dean and Chapter. While the four people are arranging the coronation, people may wonder where they would find the resources. In 1382, a manuscript was published in preparation for the coronation of Anne of Bohemia, the Queen Consort of Richard II. This was called the Libere Regalius, or the Royal Book. The Libere Regalius had been written as an instruction book to help people organise and run a coronation ceremony for a new monarch and/or a new consort. The book is used as a running order, though details have been changed in the following years. What happens during a coronation ceremony? With all this planning, what happens on the coronation day itself? It's no easy task, as everything has to be strictly run like clockwork, but it also depends on the timing of the ceremony. Some have lasted a day. Queen Victoria's coronation lasted for 5 hours, while Queen Elizabeth II lasted for 3 hours. Because it is also a religious ceremony, coronation services take place during Holy Communion. While guests include other members from foreign royal families, the Prime Minister, MPs and charity patrons, we will only be looking at the coronation procession and ceremony through the eyes of a British monarchy. All the events will be based on the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, and resources from the Libere Regalius and website pages from the UK government, royal family and Westminster Abbey. The coronation procession will begin at Buckingham Palace, where a monarch will begin their journey to Westminster Abbey in the Gold State Coach. The Gold State Coach was commissioned in 1760 by the first Marquess of Hastings. In today's money, the enclosed 8-horse drawn carriage would have cost £3.54 million. Because of its age, weight and lack of manoeuvrability, the coach is only limited for state occasions, including coronations. Along a lined route of sailors, soldiers, airmen and women of the British Empire and Commonwealth, the coach will take the journey down the Mall and pass through Trafalgar Square and towards the Abbey. Upon arrival, the monarch would enter the Abbey. He or she would enter in a suit or dress, but on top they would wear the crimson surcoat and robe of state. These are a recognisable part of the coronation attire. For those who aren't sure what they mean, the surcoat is a short velvet cloak with a high collar embroidered with gold. The robe of state is a long mantle that is worn on top of the surcoat. The robe of state, or the Parliament robe as it's known, is made of red velvet, gold embroidery, regal ermine and gold lace that came from Canada. The length of the robe of state again differs, but in her coronation, Queen Elizabeth's robe of state was 14 feet long. The sovereign arrives at the west end of Westminster Abbey and descends through the nave and choir to the theatre. While making their way, the choir sings verses of Psalm 122. This is a tradition dating back to the coronation of Charles I in 1626. When the monarch is seated before the Archbishop of Canterbury prepares the sovereign to the people, and in response, people in the abbey cheer with "God save the King" or "God save the Queen." After the presentation of the sovereign receives recognition where he or she is acknowledged as the new monarch of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms. Then, the sovereign takes the coronation oath, with the Archbishop of Canterbury asking them if they are willing to govern faithfully with justice and mercy, uphold the gospel, and maintain the doctrine and worship of the Church of England. When the sovereign says, "All this I promise to do," the sword of state is carried to the altar, and before witnesses, he or she lays their right hand upon the Holy Gospel in the Great Bible, saying, "The things which I have here before promised, I will perform and keep, so help me God." They then kiss the book and sign the oath. The coronation services proceed with the choir singing an ancient traditional hymn called Versi Creator Spiritualis, or "Come, Creator Spirit." Then the sovereign's crimson robe is removed and is seated in the coronation chair. When the choir then sings the famous anthem Sadok the Priest, 4 Knights of the Garter hold a canopy over the chair, and this is where, hidden from public view, the Archbishop anoints the sovereign with holy oil on his or her hands, the breast and head. The sovereign is dressed in robes of cloth of gold upon his or her return to the coronation chair. He or she is invested with the regalia, or emblems, including the orb and sceptre. Then, excluding the sceptre and the rod with the dove, the regalias are returned to the altar. While holding them in both hands, the Dean of Westminster hands the Archbishop of Canterbury St. Edward's crown before he places the crown on the sovereign's head. The newly crowned sovereign leaves the coronation chair and moves to a newly designed throne in the main part of the theatre between the sacralum and the choir. The sovereign then receives the homage of the people performed by the Lords Spiritual, which are the bishops, and the Lords Temporal, who are sceptre members of the House of Lords. If there was a queen consort, her anointing and crowning follows. A king or a prince consort isn't anointed or crowned. Following the crowning, the sovereign receives Holy Communion, and the Archbishop gives the blessing, while the choir sings Gloria in Excelsis and A Te Deum. To conclude the coronation, the sovereign withdraws to St. Edward's Chapel, where he or she puts on a robe of purple velvet and exchanges St. Edward's crown for the imperial state crown before he or she proceeds through the abbey to the West End. The sovereign then returns to Buckingham Palace, and that's where the coronation procession ends. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe.